That's the pre-fishing knowledge I went to Lake of the Woods with. NWT, AIM, everybody, just go artificials. Lake of the Woods, oh man. And I held my rod and it was doubled over and my reel was just screaming. I don't know if there is a bad bait there. And I was like, oh my God, what do I have? When they're biting, they're biting. Everybody feels like a hero. 29-incher, we're like, oh, bonsai. That is the way to start this day. It's the times when they're not.
So what was your big pattern on Sakakawea for most of your big ones? Welcome back to the Castelline podcast, everybody. We're talking with Tom Gudmestad today, maybe better known as Crappie T if you've been watching this channel for a few years. He's made several appearances. He's a dentist by day and a walleye tournament angler by... Well, you don't fish walleye tournaments at night, but I think you get the point. He does a lot of the AIM walleye circuit tournaments, mostly in Minnesota, a little bit of North Dakota. He also dipped his toes into the National Walleye Tour last year, and that's a big part of what we're going to talk about today, how his National Walleye Tour experience went. We're basically going to do a run-through of his last year's tournament schedule, look ahead to what happens next year for his tournaments, and try to glean as many insights as we can to what patterns work for him, what presentations work for him, how the lakes fish differently, which could give you some insights into how to attack the next lake you go to, whether it's something you fished a bunch or somewhere you've never been. So with that, stay tuned for this conversation with Crappie T.
2, 4, 3. It's TLT.
You're doing the countdown? That's my job. Why are you counting down?
I don't even know why we had to have a countdown.
Well, we did.
T
That's how these
L
work.
T.
You always have to run the show. Why do you do this every time?
Control freak, as said by all parties in my house. Anyway, lead us into this, Brett Bloemendaal.
Welcome back to the podcast, Crappie T, Tom Gudmestad. How are you?
Country dentist.
Country dentist. How many teeth you cleaned today?
And just had my teeth cleaned today at my wife's office.
Your teeth cleaned?
My teeth cleaned at my wife's office. And I got to thinking, did you know, Bloom, you only have to clean the teeth you want to keep?
That kind
Think
of blew
hard
my mind.
about that next time you skip your dental appointment.
That kind of blew my mind.
Anyway, continue. I've already interrupted twice.
So I want to start. I have a gift for you. You've been asking me about hats.
Perfect.
I have two versions, and so they got these. We got like leather patches.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out like, oh, my hair looks awesome today. The patch is a little small, but it's a cool patch, and it'd be longer lasting. Also, they did half on the side and half in the middle. Which do you like better?
You already know what I'm going to say. Send both.
Send both.
Send both.
Boy.
Seeing how it's been way overdue.
Well,
when you came to Idaho, you brought Jason a hat, but I got left out in the cold, kicked to the curb.
Yeah, you do still have the old version, the crappy hat.
Right.
You got to start somewhere though, so that's how we got there.
Are you going to do your intro so people like know this is official, because it's not going to go sideways the whole time?
They know it's official. I'm probably going to record I'm going to record like a solo intro, you know? Oh, yeah. And then it's just going to start with us blabbering. So like we're live now. Are you aware of that?
Fairly much, yeah. Okay. Just got done with a spaghetti dinner, so I'm sort of decompressing. Anyway, yeah, good. No, winter. It's winter. Sucks. It's awful. Everybody, I spend an hour today on the phone with my tournament partners. They're going nuts. I'm going nuts. They went ice fishing to humor themselves. Still going nuts, even though they caught a few fish. Just not the same. Winter's kind of had it, even though here in Idaho, we've got a red flag warning as an atmospheric river again approaches. So we've had snow on the ground, 4 or 5 inches for a few days. Now we're going to get more and then more again. But then next weekend it's over, and I think we'll be able to go crappie fishing, which I hardly do. But there's nothing else to do, and I'm ready.
I
To
don't
do something before we go insane. Anyway, that's cool. I don't know how I got on that topic, but yeah, winter's almost, let's call it around here. We probably got not very much left of it, other than a little burst, but Midwest, brutal. My mom lives in Minnesota, -20. The highs of, -4. I can't even. Wow.
Yeah, we're starting to get some of that in Iowa. This week's going to be like highs in the 8, 10, 12 degree range and lows below 0. And I moved snow 3 times today. So that was great.
Winter
Indeed.
But the beauty of it is the fun. The fun is coming.
And what is the fun?
The fun is sitting in a boat, going fishing for something around here. Probably early on be crappies. Once things get kicked off in the April-May time frame, my dog's eating his tail. April-May time frame, then it's full on. Then it's on. Then it's like, yeah.
Yeah. I'm getting through winter today by wearing my Florida Gator colors. And I just so happen to have my Florida Gator gnome in my office. Cool. Probably nobody knows that I was a Florida Gator fan. I don't talk about it a lot because they've sucked for a long time. Anyway, I wish I was in Florida for like a week.
There'd be no snow.
No.
Which seems appropriate, but
yeah.
Whatever. It's something you got to endure. Everybody's been enduring it forever and ever and ever, and here we go. Anyway.
So when it stops being winter, what's your tournament schedule look like next year? Are you still fishing? You told me you were fishing the NWT and Francis Case in April.
I haven't totally committed. I think I'm going to do that.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm gonna do similar deal. Probably do that one. Plus, I'd like to do the Minnesota AIM and the North Dakota AIM. North Dakota kind of became convenient for me, living 1,500 miles away, in that I can get there one time, and they've got a doubleheader, a Saturday-Sunday deal. Yeah. One tournament Saturday, separate tournament Sunday. So, and both on Sakakawea, which at least now after the NWT, I got a little, I got a little knowledge there, even though this one's going to be in June, June 20, 21, something like that. So by then the ice will be off. Thank God. And, water might be hopefully 60, 61, 62, 3, warming up, fish feel good. Like, hey, let's go eat some of those little white minnows called smelt running around here and eat all we can. That would make things a lot easier than during the August period where they eat for a period of time and then they get lockjaw and they chase your bait and run away, which seemed very frustrating, but I'm sure we'll touch on that later.
What's the launch point for that one in June?
I believe it is Beulah Bay. Beulah. So one day is no boundaries. One day they're going to set a boundary, which they haven't said where the boundary is. I would just guess it's probably the Beacon, or they're going to keep you out of the hook.
And it's June what?
20.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there'll probably be May Lake fish going by then. If it was like an early June thing, that'd be a tough. You're going to want to find a bay somewhere, and there's not Beulah Bay has a bay, but it's probably not. Interesting. Okay. I would imagine there's some Main Lake fish going on there, but it all depends. Depends on how warm it gets and what the fish do.
We'll see, you know, if it stays cold like you guys had a spring last year, you know,
Mm-hmm.
who knows what happens. But the beauty of it is everybody's in the same boat,
Sure.
same boundaries for everybody, and so even field. Tough thing is you kind of got to prepare for two different tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
One where you can go anywhere you want, and one where you can't. And whatever. I'm sure we'll eventually know,
Mm-hmm.
probably at some point ahead of time, but that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
So what did you think about your return to Sakakawea? It had been what 30? Well, it had been 36 years since you fished there regularly. We had fished there a couple of times before that, but what did you think?
Uh, Tough time of the year, other than that hour and a half, the 2 hour window period where they're like on. You throw it on a hog, down, thunk, 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 bam. Other than that period, a lot of that chase, 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 maybe swim away, come back, take another look, swim away. It was fun. I mean, the takeaway from this whole tournament season was I learned even more than I would have dreamed I would learn in a season. And it was a lot of fun, and we went to a lot of cool places. Did pretty well here and there. Want me to give you a season recap?
Probably, but first, I just want to I hate to do this. I hate to say I told you so, but last year when we did this, everybody look out for Tom Gudmestad this year at the NWT at Sakakawea. See where he finishes. If you could finish top 50, in your first like big time walleye tournament, that'd be pretty impressive. I think I said if you finish top 50 in your first National Walleye Tour event, that would be a pretty good finish. What can you tell us what place you finished?
Probably right about there from what I can remember. He.
You know, the
The
unfortunate.
beauty of it is I live 1,400
I know.
miles away. I've fished there for a total of 7 days, probably in the last 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of locals and there's a lot of NWT pros,
Mm-hmm.
not a lot, but some that were behind me.
Yeah.
Kind of makes you feel like you're not a total idiot.
No.
And that, you know, I met guys that lived in Minot and the surrounding area and can fish there anytime they want. And they were behind me.
Yeah.
And had we finagled one more, I mean, the last day we came in with 4 fish after, you know, throwing a couple back during the bite window, you know, but that's everybody. Everybody there had some issues with the 5 fish, 5 and done thing. Obviously, not the guys who really, really got them to bite during the non-bite time,
but two things. So one, it had just started to get summer tough, like a couple of days before that tournament. And second, with the wind the second day, you couldn't get to your best stuff. So I mean, I really want to know what would have happened if you had the option of getting there, because
and I probably should have just went. I mean,
well,
it wasn't that I couldn't. I was
sure.
just seeing that it was going to take
Mm-hmm.
longer than it did the first day. The first day, first person at the gas stop, gassed up, boom, jetted there, no big deal. Cool. But I put all those things together, and I did have some stuff in Douglas Bay and on the south side, the place on the south side that I knew about. I should have spent more time after watching tournament level gold. You know, Dewey ended up freaking, well, I know he caught his last fish there because he put his finisher, which is one of the greatest baits that we've came to love from this year, put it on his reel and said, we're going in. So that spot on the south side, I had been there. Probably should have maybe looked a little more in depth, maybe should have checked it again. But the thing about Sakakawea is it's total overload. There's so much.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, it was like you could always go someplace and you'd see a couple within a half an hour of really decent fish.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you could go many, many places and see something. So it's like you hated to the spot that Dewey was. We went through there, did a speed scan with the big motor. I was on the live scope, just wah, fast, like 4 miles an hour. Might have missed some, might have not. Maybe they weren't there right that second. You know, whatever. Tons of variables, shoulda, woulda, coulda. But just way too much stuff for a guy who's still got a job and other stuff to, you know, and you're thankfully during practice there was some fairly windless days where we could do a lot, but there's a lot plus a lot times 3 to look at.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was really fun. We caught a lot of nice fish. We caught a lot of just fish in general. I mean, it's a factory. It was nice to go back, you know, where I grew up. And I had it in my brain I was really going to crack them. And we did okay the first day. But that August time frame when it gets to be the dog days of summer, I mean, if you were able to coax them, you know, I guess that's why they're the real pros. They could coax them into biting or had enough spots, or it's like, it's almost like you needed a lot of spots because you could pull up on a spot and maybe get one, but there might have been more fish there. And it's like, once that one came out, the word got out. They put out an email. Hey, if you see that white thing with a little gold jig head or a jig head on it come by you, don't bite it. You know, so you'd hit them with the finisher, the jig and the crawler, everything, thinking, man, these things got to take something. And no, they no bite.
Yeah, but I've been saying that for a long time, and that was kind of my expectation going into that it's just, if you want to catch 5 big ones, I'm not saying you can't catch them all in one spot. It can happen, but more often than not, you'll get 1 or 2 and you got to go somewhere else and you just got to keep moving. And it sounded like to me, Dewey he might call it a spot, but I think he was just cruising a stretch of like 5 miles on that South Shore. And maybe you see a fish every few hundred yards that you want to throw at.
If that. The recap phase.
What a rip.
Oh, you ready?
Go for it.
Last year, you were going to say, what happened last year? Oh, thanks for the question, Brett. Last year, went to a cool place, I guess. First tournament of the year was on Big Stone. You ever been there?
I haven't. I know where it is. I know of it.
Lots of pheasants and turkeys around there. Anyway, there's nice, yeah, there's willies too. There's Walleye. We were there end of May, week after Minnesota opener. Kind of a weird place in that a lot of it is shallow, like 10, 11, 12 feet. Well, the weeds come up to within 2 to 4 feet of the surface everywhere, except for a few very small spots, rock spines, a few areas where it must have been some gravel and the weeds couldn't grow, but that's that curly tail pond weed, and it's basically everywhere. Very, very frustrating. Fished it with Ethan. He shows up. We go out just cruising around, little structure around. First 2 fish of the trip. I mean, got this much water and this much weeds. We see a big glowing star above the weeds. He tosses out a paddle shad. It's in the water for about 1 second. 29-inch walleye. We're like, and this is the first fish of the trip. We get it in and we're like, whoa, this might be all right. 10 minutes later, 1/4 mile away, right above the weeds. This much water, this much weeds. This much water above the weeds. Anyway, I'm following it. Boom, he throws his paddle shad out. half a second, wham, 29-inch walleye, 29 and a quarter. So that's how we start the trip. The pre-fishing started with a 29 and a 29 and a quarter. So we're thinking, hand us the trophy, Charlie. This is over. Well, let's just say that didn't last. Had a practice day of 116 mile an hour wind with 5-foot waves blowing right down the Minnesota River. Anyway, found some spots, figured some stuff out, did our game, didn't do the trolling thing. Lots of people trolling over the weeds, makes sense. Can't troll through the weeds because too much. But we did good. We got 8th, started the year. Nice start to the year. Nate, my son, graduated in June from UW, so I missed the Mille Lacs tournament. So I did a Mille Lacs tournament with Ethan's North Dakota partner, Bryce, a Minnesota tournament trail deal. We did okay the first day. On the second day, we tried a totally different pattern, steep break, lots of abyss. Just figured we had to do something else. We didn't have anything to lose. After the first day, we were in like probably 20-something place out of 80. Second day, we wrecked them. No one around. It was awesome. So we ended up getting 14th. Anyway, fun. Love Mille Lacs. Caught a northern that was just absolutely a whale, like a 40-incher. Kind of cool.
So I'm hearing, I haven't been to Mille Lacs ice fishing yet because I have heard that there's just a ton of small walleyes being caught, like 10, 12 inches, and a ton of small perch. Presumably the big walleyes have a bunch to eat. I don't know when. I assume it was a recent spawn situation, but the last time I went to Mille Lacs last fall was amazing. I didn't get out there in the fall this year, and I haven't gone ice fishing yet. So I don't know if that's going to change or not. I don't know if there's people.
Well, the videos coming out of Mille Lacs are all catching 12 to 14-inch big old fatty pregnant perch. They're catching cooks from Sobe and, those cool guys that make fancy videos and stuff on Mille Lacs and that area of the world. Anyway, yeah, no, it was fun. Everybody loves Leech Lake. That was next. Very, very, very frustrating. Almost Sakakawea-like in that it was massive bite windows, and after that, you literally could see the fish you wanted, and we could not. As most people told us they couldn't either. We couldn't make them go.
And what time of year was the Leech Lake one?
Leech was in July. Bugs were hatching. Yeah. It was fun. I really like fishing there. And in pre-fish, we'd caught some decent fish, even on a jigging Rap. And jigging Raps this year in general just didn't seem to be a thing in a lot of places, even on Sakakawea in August. I probably caught in the whole 4-day pre-fish period, one fish on a jigging Rap. And usually Sakakawea, they're kind of suckers for jig Raps, but anyway, on Leech, things were tough. Few wild times, caught a few monsters on a Rap. Then you'd catch a scattered one here on a hard bait, like a finisher or, the old jig and a worm. They'll bite that, I guess, all the time. The guys, Eric McCoy on Sakakawea in the end of May, they won the AIM National Championship on a jig and a crawler. So I guess it's a thing. Must be. Anyway, so here comes the Leech tournament. And we caught, during the bite window, 4 fish. Then we went over 6 hours with no bites.
Oh, my God.
Literally, and we were staring at them. They were there. And they literally, you'd throw a slip bobber, classic Leech Lake, Minnesota presentation, with a, nice leech. Could be a small leech. We tried medium leech, jumbo leech, plain hook, whatever, anything, they'd swim right on over to it and sit there and stare at it. And you'd be like, okay, you've analyzed it, take it. And they'd sit there for like a minute. And the whole time you're thinking, all right, it's on. And they'd swim away. And you bombard them with everything in the kitchen sink. No go, no go, no go. I don't get that. Anyway, so we went in to weigh in, obviously one fish short. Instead of having 5 on our card, we had 4. And even with 4, we got 32nd place, which I was shocked. Out of probably close to 100 people. So, yeah, for a guy that lives 1,600 miles away and he's fished Leech Lake 10 days in his lifetime, maybe not so bad. I don't know. It was fun.
Yeah.
Love it.
I'm curious about this jigging wrap thing. So it's been 2 solid years on Sakakawea. It's not like they don't work anymore. You catch fish on them, and you have some days where they're biting them more than they'll bite other things. But it's not like it was 3, 4, and 5 years ago. And I don't know if it's, the fish starting to get onto the pattern. They're starting to figure out that that's not. I don't know if they're getting smarter. I know there are times where things will work and they'll be trendy, and then people find a new thing. But I'm curious about this jigging wrap thing, and especially since you said it was happening other places. I'm wondering what that.
Well, and at the NWT deal on Sakakawea, I asked Dwayne, who won the whole shooting match. I was like, so did jigging wraps work? And he's like, oh, they worked. 1 out of maybe 100.
Yeah.
If you really think about that, who's going to throw on 100 nice marks and get 1 to go?
Nope.
That means it basically almost a fluke that you got 1 to bite. So I don't get it. I mean, but the many places we fished on Mille Lacs too, jigging wraps were not a thing. They were. And granted, that was a June thing, so maybe the water wasn't warm enough, because it took things a while last year to warm up, and usually they say upper 60s on jigging wraps can be a super effective thing, but even then it just didn't seem like they were, and I'd love to know the science behind it. But
because we've had funny weather patterns the last 2 years. It's kind of funny in different ways, but the last 2 years, the bite to me on Sakakawea has been a little more finessey, a little more finicky, a little more live bait, slow rigging, even more people using Lindy rigs out there at times. To hear you say that it's happening on a lot of other lakes tells me that there's something in the weather pattern the last couple of years that maybe the fish are kind of on to the jigging wrap thing to some extent, but I feel like they haven't been biting those aggressive, fast-moving baits as well anywhere the last couple of years, especially last year. I'm curious to see if that changes this year, but
well, because Mille Lacs is mostly catch and release, you could see it there in that those fish probably have seen stuff.
Sure.
The bigger fish, most people use active or live imaging, so the big fish get sought out. But Sakakawea, as huge as it is, you'd think there'd be enough fish you would see that haven't seen a lure that would think, woo, there's a dying smell.
Right.
Think I'll eat it. I mean, that's what makes sense to me. But no, it's interesting. I still got a pile of them, and I mean, what's more fun than a jig wrap bite? Almost nothing. I mean, just to feel that smash as that lure is falling, or when you pick that lure back up off the bottom to rip it again, and your rod doubles over. I mean, it's cool. It's fun. It's what we live for, right?
Yep.
Anyway, after Mille Lacs, which was super fun, was the NWT thing, and that was, I thought it was great experience. I liked that whole thing. It's kind of fun seeing those guys you watch on TV, tournament level gold and all that stuff, and all the different YouTube contents that are out there. It's it's fun seeing those guys out there, like, whoa, I might have found a decent spot if, John Hoyer's here or something like that, and just, seeing him around town at the gas station or whatever, putting an eye on somebody that you've only seen on TV before or whatever.
Sure.
It's kind of cool, and the whole NWT experience kind of cranks up. Wish I would have done better. Wish I'd have, everybody had a shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Sure.
Wish I'd have done this thing, but that's the way it went, and I'm anxious to hopefully do one on Francis' case, and yeah, probably win. Just kidding. No, I've never been there. The only thing I've ever done in South Dakota is shoot roosters.
Yeah.
And that was damn good, but yeah, it'd be fun. But probably for me and the couple guys that I fish with, the highlight of the year obviously was the Minnesota State Championship on Lake of the Woods. None of us had ever been there. Supposedly it's the walleye capital of the world. That's what they say. In Baudette, Minnesota, they got a big picture of a walleye, kind of like you do in Garrison, or a big statue.
Yep.
Well, let me tell you. Oh my, is it the walleye capital of the world? I went there after never been there, knowing nothing except for my guy that I fish with and around my mom's house there in Perham in west central Minnesota. He's got relatives there. He's fished there a bunch of times. Said, go out of the gap and just go out until your depth finder says 30 feet and just stop and start fishing. That's the pre-fishing knowledge I went to Lake of the Woods with. So what I do? I drove out of the gap, straight out. Got the old Canada line there, so don't go there. You'll get killed by the Mounties or something. I don't know. Anyway, I went out. Depth finder said 29.8 feet. Shut the boat down. Put the scope down. Got a rod out. Everybody says every color is good on Lake of the Woods as long as it's gold. So guess what I had on? Gold jig. It was actually kind of bronzish or whatever, but I had a Pendu jig. Lip Ripper says, go with the Pendu jig. That'd be Randy from Ripping Lips Adventures, which he'll post that advertisement right there.
If you haven't already checked out Tour Level Tom, a National Walleye Tour rookie experience on the Ripping Lips Adventures channel, do yourself a favor and check that out. If you've ever wanted to know what it's like behind the scenes at a professional walleye tournament, especially for someone new to the big national stage, I promise this will be an amazing watch. And now, back to the podcast.
Because he made an awesome video, by the way. Thank you, Randy from Ripping Lips Adventures. Spent a lot of time trailing me around at Sakakawea. Bloom's been plugging that video. Probably nobody will ever like it or see it, even though 7.7 thousand people, holy smokes, have seen it. Wow, I'm talking really fast. Anyway, it's because I'm excited about Lake of the Woods. Livescope's initiating, get out my rod, get a night crawler on. I don't know what they're biting on, whatever. It just happened to be what in my mind I thought, it's 2:30 in the afternoon. It's like 90 degrees outside, dead calm. Algae floating all over. You can see about 8 inches into the water. Walk up front, hit the OK button on Livescope, and I'm like, no way. Already? There was fish there. And some of them looked kind of big. And I thought, nah, carp, suckers, whatever. Toss it out there. Jig goes down. Fish goes down after it. You feel a little ding, ding. Wham! Nothing. Nightcrawler's nipped off at the hook. Throw it on another one. Ding, ding. Wham! Nightcrawler's nipped off at the hook. I'm like, well, maybe these are like sturgeon or something. They looked huge. Anyway, I thought, all right, so the next one, we'll just give them a while. kind of like we did on Sakakawea. Give the count of 5, threw on the next one, gave it to him, set it up, and I'm like, wow. Had one of those JT medium or mag medium light, got a brand new rod. JT rods are great, love them. Anyway, the thing is doubled over, and I've caught enough fish on it to know when it's doubled like that, it's going to be heavy. Anyway, fightingest fish you ever, I don't know. Maybe I was just in awe. I don't know. They really seemed to fight really hard. It was like a 26.5-incher, first fish of the trip. Fat. I mean, the thing they must just be eating machines, which I'm guessing they are. Anyway, literally that big Traverse Bay thing, I went here, there, and kind of found just medium rock line stuff, went out in the mud, spent tons of time in the mud, which everybody's doing, and holy cow. I mean, it's infested. I mean, it truly, I was super impressed. When the day we left after the tournament, one of my partners, Ethan, he comes up and we're leaving like, hey, see you guys at the next one. And he's like, it's going to be really hard to fish anywhere else. It was great. Anyway, had a few cool things happen, like, well, had some unfortunateness happen as well. Like day 1, we did okay. During the tallying of the deal, waiting for the results to come out, when the tournament director, Denny Fox, calls you and said, oh, you wrote a fish incorrectly. In an aim, you write the fish incorrectly. She's gone. And so instead of having, and it was a 6.5-pounder. So that's kind of big. So
what was incorrect? What did you do?
Huh?
What was incorrect about it?
Well, we were doing it where we would lay them on the scale, take our picture, say, okay, 26.5, whatever. Okay, 26.5. We'd take the hero shot, throw them away, then we'd go to the tablet, write it on there. We did all that. We get to the tablet and Dave said, whatever, 25.5, right? Or 26.5, right? Or something. And we agreed on a certain number, and it wasn't that number. It was a different number. So Gonzo's 6.5 pounds. Well, on Lake of the Woods, that's huge. On anywhere, that's huge. So instead of being reasonable in the 20s, we were in the, 55th or some crazy thing.
Yeah.
So day 2, we got nothing to lose. So we go for broke. And if day 1 would have been what day 2, we wrecked them. We had like 33 pounds, I think, or something like that, which was very reasonable. But we did have one really cool thing happen, which I'd never really had. My partner, Dave, I'm running the scope, pitches on a giant mark. Big walleyes on livescope look like a sturgeon to us. Maybe not everybody else. Anyway, don't believe that. Just what I think. Anyway, this sturgeon goes down, takes it, and he's like, boom, on. And his rod is like that. So he's like, it's big. So I'm getting the net, gets halfway in. All of a sudden, he's like, you're not going to believe it. It came off. And he doesn't lose that many fish. But hey, it's fishing, right? I zoom over really quick on livescope, and I see the fish just kind of sitting there. Well, I got a finisher, purple and whatever colored, white or whatever. Doesn't matter what color it was. One of our new favorite lures. Worked on Sakakawea, on Lake of the Woods. It's a hammer. Anyway, I start throwing on this fish, and he starts moving out. And my partner was like, just follow him. He bit once, maybe he'll bite again. So we follow this thing for like 15 minutes minimum. And I mean, I'm like bomb casting at him, with a finisher, which a number 9 finisher is pretty heavy, and you can rifle that thing 80, 90 easy. Anyway, in 30 feet of water. He's 18 feet down. You're watching your finisher go down. It doesn't take very much, and all of a sudden he doesn't see it. And the water clarity on Lake of the Woods is like this far. So you got to be pretty close. So it's cast, cast, cast. We're just bombarding this thing. Follow him, follow him, follow him. Anyway, for whatever reason, I'll never forget this. Dave flinging a night crawler back at him, and night crawler comes off. So he's in the back baiting up. And I finally get within like 50 feet of him and drop it down. And he seems to be staying for a second. And I give him the twitch, twitch hold. And all I feel is my rod just go boom. Anyway, I set him up. And my rod is buckled. And I'm like, you're not going to believe it, Dave, but I got him. Anyway, 29-incher. We're like, oh, bonsai. That is the way to start this day. Anyway, really cool happening. Never thought we would get that dude. Will they bite again? Guess so. Anyway, a lot of fun. Lake of the Woods, awesome place. We ended up getting a mediocre finish after our lost fish, but wouldn't have traded it for the world. Whatever you guys are doing on Lake of the Woods, just keep doing it because it's working.
Yeah.
Cool.
So with all these different places you fish, what were your programs that you used in these different tournaments? Granted, some of this has to do with the seasonality as things are changing too, but I'm curious to see how these lakes fish different and how your programs change. You want to break that down?
So Mille Lacs was a very, at least at that time, late June. Could you catch them? I caught a fish on a jig wrap. I caught a fish on John Hoyer's Champ Swimmer. The only fish I've ever caught on a Champ Swimmer. I'm not saying they don't work. I like Berkley products, but the Champ Swimmer and me are on the fence right now. Okay. Anyway, we did have some minnows, tried that, but Mille Lacs was very, very, very much a jig and a leech bite. That's what caught all the fish. We tried everything under the sun. That seemed to be the winner. So jigs and live bait seem to be, and on Leech Lake, jigs and or slip bobbers, largely with crawlers or leeches seem to be the winner. Big Stone didn't seem to need live bait. I don't even know if we used it. Every fish we caught was on eye candy.
Got it.
And we tried all kinds of different stuff, and it really didn't seem to matter. And it's just so much faster and easier if they'll just take artificials like plastics. You know, you don't have to worry about, oh, they pulled my minnow off or my crawler off, because it didn't seem to be a thing. And a lot of people just pull crankbaits there, so whatever.
Well, that was a post-spawn May bite, right? So I could see either crankbaits or the jig and plastic thing could work about anywhere in the country in May, I think.
Right. And that's totally what that was. So we just locked it in our hands and figured they're going to, you know, the day one, within the first 15 minutes of being on the lake, 2 29-inchers came in the boat, both on the same lure, that smoky colored eye candy paddle tail, paddle shad, and a smeltinator jig head. And that works on Sakakawea too, a lot. Anyway, leech was live bait. Don't know if we tried the finisher much. Wish, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Wished I'd have tried some of that stuff too. My eyes have become way more open. A lot of live bait wouldn't hurt my feelings if, with all the talk about forward-facing sonar and all the controversy with it. I mean, if they're worried about catching too many fish, or if they want to put a new twist on all these tournaments, NWT, AIM, everybody, just go artificials.
Sure.
I think it'd be fun. Because I'm a small business owner, as you know, I'm still engaged in tooth repair. I hate to see the bait shops lose out on, you know, us going in there and buying, you know, $300 worth of leeches for a week and $150 worth of night crawlers, but maybe they'd still survive and be fine without us. We're only there for, most guys are there for 3, 4, 5 days. Maybe that's no big deal. I don't know, but Lake of the Woods, oh man. I don't know if there is a bad bait there. Obviously, a jig and a crawler works marvelously there. The finisher, really, that's the only two things we really used. I will tell you one quick little story, even though I've probably told a lot of quick stories already, but this was cool. I had my first muskie on this year. I know I did. I was up in 14 feet of water, way north, almost by Garden Island. I don't even know where I was. Anyway, there was a giant, the size of a quarter at 40 feet, glowing mark, and I thought, wonder what that is. Had my Smeltinator jig and a 4-inch eye candy plastic on there. I threw it at him, drifted it by him, and all I felt was wham, and I held my rod, and it was doubled over, and my reel was just screaming. And I was like, oh my God, what do I have? Anyway, eventually it broke me off, but I'd never had a fish just totally scream like I threw my bait on the fender of a semi truck and gone. Anyway, that was really cool. So lots of I don't know that I used jig and a minnow much. If it was minnows, we just used plastics and it didn't seem to matter. The creek chub on Sakakawea thing really didn't seem to be a thing, even though didn't try it a ton. But
so what was your big pattern on Sakakawea for most of your big ones?
Probably either a black or that new olive jig, or that bronze jig that I used, that bronze Pendu jig that I used on I hadn't been to Lake of the Woods yet. I had some of those. Maybe it was just gold. Anyway, jig and a crawler, probably caught a lot. Finisher, caught some. And I would say just that big white smelt looking plastic on a 1/4 ounce head. Dwayne Jelm said he used the Moochie minnow, which for most of us poor scabs, we couldn't get our hands on a Moochie minnow yet because it wasn't out. They're out now, and I got every color in the rainbow and can't wait to use them. But we were just using eye candy minnows, or jerk shads, scented jerk shads. I think those are great. I think everybody used the same thing. A lot of guys, I guess, did use creek chubs, but I don't know. I don't know why I didn't do it more. On Sakakawea, where the water isn't super clear, they don't seem to be, shy as much as like on Leech, where the water's crystal.
Yep.
You could take a Lindy rig and a chub, and you could actually cast it at them and drug it past them for something else. But I don't know. I was just really put off by the amount of that follow stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes all the way from 70 feet to right below the boat.
Yeah.
And not bite. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, I'm really curious to get my Mega Live out there next year because I didn't have that thing running until it was either late July or early August, but the bite started to get tougher. So there was a lot of fish that would follow and not bite. I'm curious to see what that looks like come June next year or late May, throwing jigs around.
That's when I'm going to be there, June 20th. They better, if I see them follow like that, I don't know. We might have to get some hand grenades or something.
Yeah.
Because it's extremely frustrating. It really gets the mind turning.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a few things. I watch bass. Everybody watches bass. So Bassmaster, all the recap tournaments, Bass Live for the year. I do just for something to do. Kind of learn a lot from those guys. Kind of, sort of. Mostly it's just entertainment, something to do, watching fishing. But kind of had a few ideas of some stuff I'd really like to try during those tough bite periods. I mean, when they're biting. Everybody feels like a hero. It's the times when they're not And especially during a tournament when you've got, from 7 to 3, whatever. Well, if you do really well from during a bite window, but then the bite window closes and you don't have all your fish,
Yeah.
that's a conundrum. Like, what are we going to do now?
Mm-hmm.
Got a few ideas. Yeah, exciting stuff. Had a great time. And I cannot wait to get on them again.
I sincerely appreciate you checking out the podcast, and if you had any desire to support the channel further, please go ahead and check out my Patreon at patreon.com/Bloemendaal Fishing. And if you're in the local Sakakawea area, the top 2 membership tiers also include extremely in-depth fishing reports to help get you on fish as fast as possible every time you go out. Again, patreon.com/Bloemendaal Fishing. Back to the podcast.
One thing I'll tell you about on the YouTube realm that we saw last year, especially during summer. Tom Boley, Nick Linder did a bunch of it. I'm sure there was others that are great. Those live streams, real life fishing.
Okay.
You drive off the dock, you go out there and the camera's rolling. No editing, no cutting, whatever. I mean, pretty gutsy move. I like to see the struggles, everybody. If you fish long enough, you can probably put enough fish together to make it seem like it was a really great day. But like you, me, everybody's had a lot of days that weren't really great days. And it's cool. Some of those were captured on a live stream where they'd see the fish that they really wanted to catch and they wouldn't bite the search bait, the jig and the crawler, the on and on and on, jigging a plastic, going through the kitchen sink, having to move on. Stuff that has happened to you, and here on the live streams, you see it on there too. I thought that was fun. You should do one next year.
Okay.
I don't know how you do it.
This is something that's come up more frequently after some of these. I've talked with some of the other people about this too. I was curious to know how many people are interested in this, like what the audience is for it. Because obviously, if you put out a 2-hour video, you're probably not going to get as many views as a 20-minute video. But if they watch longer, it could even out. I'm trying to figure out how many people are interested in that. In terms of how you do it, for me, I typically fish with batteries in my camera. I usually don't. I have one of those Yellow Tech power sticks, but my port doesn't connect very well with that thing, my nav light port. So I haven't been able to get it to work to where I can keep charging it and running it.
Keep juice going.
So that would be one sticking point for me to get that to work. But if it's something that makes sense that people would actually like to do, I wouldn't mind trying that once.
I think you ought to do it one time just because, it shows people a day in the life. And here you are the guy that's out there, weather dependent, anywhere from 5 to 7 days a week, so you're kind of on the bite, but it's not like, a lot of people think you go out there, pull into, Douglas Bay into a certain cove in May and whip out a swim bait and got him. It's just not that. It's just not realistic. And even on Sakakawea where there's so many walleyes, it's just kind of a different deal in the live thing, like Nick Linder and Tom Boley both showed livescope. Let's face it, like it or don't like it, a lot of us like it, and it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to watch. I like watching it even on Bassmaster. And obviously it's far from cheating in that I used it exclusively on Sakakawea, and hey, day 2 I came in with 4 fish. Well, if it was cheating, I'd have thrown back 50 because I threw it 300 fish. So as far as cheating goes, negative. Try again. Leech Lake went 6 hours in a fish factory throwing dead on. 6 hours without a bite. Went in with 4 on my card. If it was cheating, my card should have been maxed out.
Right.
You know, you still have to make them bite. And it doesn't mean that you catch a fish, you got to keep
Sure.
it. I mean, that's all on us. I mean,
Yep.
a lot of the people that exclusively use livescope and like it and think it's fun, which it's super fun, seeing the reactions. And I mean, most of us don't keep, I mean, even on Leech Lake, we pre-fished for 3 days. I would say 2 of those days, between 2 boats of us, we never even kept a walleye. Didn't even cross our mind. We were, you know, laser focused on figuring out the thing. Plus, after a day of being out there from 6 a.m. to 7:30 p.m., last thing I want to do is clean fish.
Sure. Do you
You know,
do you think that that uncut video idea thing works without live scope, or do you think that's why it's entertaining?
I do. I don't think you'd have to do it all the
Mm-hmm.
time. I think it would be nice to, especially if you got into an area where there was a ton of fish, or you were, you know, you wanted to really, I think it would be a nice thing to show some of the time.
Okay.
Obviously, it adds another realm. I mean, I have no clue how. I really I like watching Nick Linder's stuff. He gave some rants about forward-facing sonar for the haters that
Yeah.
just basically dittoed what I just said. I mean, if you don't like it, don't use it. I think it's fun. And he goes to a lot of the places that I like to go to. He's probably living the life I'd like to have. I mean, go out and fish Mille Lacs and Leech and Winnie and all those places because you live super close and he's in the Mecca. I mean, how cool would that be? You know, I live in Idaho. We got to travel 3.5 hours to catch walleyes, even though it's a pretty good place. You know, it's not like in our backyard where a lot of that stuff, or you've got Sakakawea, basically the Trobriand Bay is 1.5 miles from your house, you know. So a lot of us are kind of envious in those situations. But yeah, I think the live stream just, it gives you an idea of what happens during the day and how, maybe gives you an idea of how much you suck or don't suck. Like, I went out and fished for 4 hours and caught 1 fish. Well, maybe other people, it happens to them too. So, and on some of those videos, you'd see them throw on a whole bunch of fish and they don't bite. So it's like, cool. We're all in the same boat. Everybody's human and fun, like it. I think it would be something you, live scope or no live scope, could try it. I mean, try it live for an hour one time and see if anybody watches it. If the comments are, "Oh, that was terrible," don't do it again.
I mean, I do try to like get a little bit of, I haven't done videos where I'm fishing for an hour or 2 straight uncut, but I try to get a little bit of the first or second or third spot that didn't work and going through the process. But that just takes it up to a whole different level in terms of, especially like you said, throwing at specific fish and all that. Well, he's not reacting that very well. What if I tried doing this? And just being able to, like, I think it's also just kind of a social media thing where you're just kind of chit chatting and yammering in the meantime. And
that would be, that will be the tough part. I mean, I can see during these lives where they do tend to just yammer along, which for a guy like me, no problem, you know, but not all of us have the gift of just being able to yammer just to hear ourselves talk. But, you know, when you're out there fishing by yourself and, you know, you got a live stream on, you got to think of stuff to say. And a lot of times, due to what, you know, what's going on with the wind, the fish, the whatever, trying different baits. I thought everybody that did those last year, Tom Boley and Nick Linder, the ones that I watched the most, I thought they were super entertainment. In fact, this winter I went back and watched some again just because, you know, you pick up little things, and I'm trying to learn. I mean, I'm trying to be a student of the days it was cloudy, it was sunny, it was windy, it wasn't. What'd they do? What made it go? What pulled the rabbit out of the hat that day? Because everybody has those days. Here in Idaho, I think at our walleye lakes, there's a shortage of food. So you get a bait on a fish, on a walleye, and they just bite. And they stay shallow all year long. It's fun. Yeah, try a live stream. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, it's an interesting mind shift because, and it's not like when I'm editing a video, I'm just trying to get the highlights, but I'm trying to condense what happened for the day. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, some of it's informational, but I'm trying to condense it to like what's just the 20-ish minutes that they really need to get a vibe for this versus everything.
Right.
And I don't think I would have a problem talking that long. I'm pretty good at rambling. And typically when I get done with a video, I have 2 hours of stuff that I end up picking through and cutting where I'm actively talking or doing something. Yeah, it's just I remember seeing the first one come out and I was like, that's a really interesting take. I'm curious to see how it goes over. So I'm curious to see if it's a trend that takes on or that continues on next year that starts to pick up. But I'll probably try it at least once and give it a shot, see what happens.
May as well. I mean, it's something different. It's something you haven't done before. And, you know, a lot of the people that follow you, you're 100% going to do it on Sakakawea. Many of your most loyal followers are from within probably 75 miles of where you live. A lot of them anyway. And I think it would be, if they don't think it'd be cool to see, oh, he's in Bay X fishing this, and this, and we've watched for an hour and he hasn't gotten a bite. Whoa. Maybe we don't want to go there, and maybe we don't want to do this, whatever. So you'll learn something. I mean, sometimes you get out of it what you read into it. I'm surprised that video when you came out here, went crappie fishing.
Mm-hmm.
How many views that stupid thing has gotten?
That video, it was such a sleeper. Like it was one of those things where I think it took YouTube a while to figure out who wanted to see it. And all of a sudden, like in November, that video just took off. Every single day that video gets like 100 views.
And we didn't even know if we were going to bring the cameras that day. It was supposed to storm and rain and all this stuff, and it was non-pleasant, and it was windy. And we just went out crappie fishing. I mean, no big deal. It wasn't like, you know, we were going on Lake of the Woods fishing for hog walleyes. We were going fishing for crappies.
Yeah.
You know, on a desert lake. Big woo, you know, but it never ceases. You know, this winter, I don't know how it popped up on my YouTube. There's a guy that's a professional eater. Have you seen that guy? He's got a beard. Beard beats food or something like that. I don't know.
Not him specifically, no.
I mean, they put these giant, enough food for a family of 10 in front of him, and he's got an hour to eat it. Well, he gets like 170 million views on a video.
Oh.
A guy because he ate, 47 McDonald's Big Macs or something.
Jeez.
I mean, come on. Or the guys that go out and just camp and cook a little food and walk around out in the sub-zero and camp in their pickup bed, and they get like 17 million views in a month.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't get it. I don't get it. So, anyway.
Yeah. It's hard to figure out what's going to make a YouTube video pop. I still think that crappie video to some extent has to do with the thumbnail, the Snake Shack.
Yeah, the Snake Shack.
Yeah. I think that's a big part of it.
Well, as soon as the ice, got 5 inches ice on that lake, as soon as it's off, I'm going. Which probably be a month or whatever. We're supposed to start getting some decent weather, whatever. But this year, super excited, as you're probably about ready to close this baby out.
Yeah, we're getting close.
I'm got some interesting ideas circling through me brain. We're gonna give her heavy. I'm excited. I think about it almost, I don't know, 15 hours a day maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, planning, strategizing. If this happens, it's this, it's this, it's this. This year we got maybe that Lake Sharp thing, I hope. Then there's starts the year early on Leech, like May 18th. Couple on Sakakawea, that double header. Got an otter tail. West Central Minnesota, I've got a little history there. The state championship in North Dakota is on Sakakawea in September. State championship in Minnesota is on Cass Lake. Oh, great. Another place I've never been. But whatever. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I have to figure it out. Kind of get in the mode of not having forever, never, never. You know, it's tough to come from 1,800 or 1,500 miles away and go to these places where a lot of these guys, especially, well, everywhere, they've fished them a lot.
Yep.
You know, like these people that came to Cascade, let's say, my home lake. Again, I would like to think that I could drill more hogs than they do on a quick fast, giving them a couple days, because I've got a history there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and to a fairly good extent, good spots are good spots year after year. See that on Sakakawea. Even taking shell out of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my. Anyway, you know, there's just some spots that routinely are good. And on Cascade, that's overly true. Anyway, yeah, even being a traveling fisher person, I'm ready.
Well, it's been fun to watch you develop on these tournament trail things and see
We're
your
getting
results
better.
and see how you go. So I can't wait for next year, and I'm glad you stopped by. It's always nice talking with you, Tom.
You too. Do good. We'll be catching up with you in June.
Sounds good, buddy. Take care.
I'll just hit allow. Something about allow, storage, whatever. Anyway, still having technical difficulties, but I think we're past it now.